Today we're unboxing a USAutomatic Ranger 1, part number 020510. This is the AC version. Let's see what we got here. Everything's nicely packaged. We got the control box here, obviously. Inside the control box you already have the board mounted. Just back out these screws here. Inside the box, we already have our control board, our solar controller or battery controller, our receiver, as well as the siren. And inside this one, we already have the battery harness sitting there ready. Here's our DC adapter. If you had the solar version, there'd be a solar panel instead. In this box, we have our photo eyes with the mounting kit. We have our 2 remotes that come with it. All of our mounting hardware, including the gate bracket. And then lastly, we have our actuator arm. This is the new style, complete with harness, ready to go. It has the mounts for side mount or upright mount. That's everything you need to install one. So at the bottom of our box here, we got our mounting brackets for the actuator. You'll find your packet. This packet has your signs for the gate entrapment. You're gonna hang on to them for later, but you do want to make sure those make it on the gate. In the manual here, it's a nice colored manual, nice printed. We're gonna flip down to page 19 for our application. This will run you through every scenario of the previous steps I'll show you in the next part. But as far as our application, we're flipping straight to the pull to open. And you'll see here on our chart, we want a 90-degree opening. So for our 90 degrees, we want dimensions A to be 5 inches, dimensions B to be 7.5. And what we're looking at here is 7.5 out and 5 over. From center of the hinge point, that's the important part. You want to be center of the hinge point to the hole on the bracket, to this hole right here. You want to be 7.5 out and 5 over. And we'll move on to the next part. So the previous step to measuring our center point in our 7.5 and 5 will be figuring out where you want to attach your actuator. I always try to shoot for the center. You don't want to go too low to where you're going to have water intrusion issues. We'll go off the center here for mine. And what I did is I took my level, I marked it center line of this post is where I want to be. And I've made an etch here. I made a small mark. And this is center equal with center of my horizontal. I then took a square and made another mark over here where my bracketry will actually go. Before videoing this, I've actually already got to where I need to be, but I'm going to explain how I got there. These brackets come with a variety of options. If you're on a round pipe post, you might find yourself putting the bracket this way, or, you know, depending on your square post, this bracket can go a number of ways. And with that, you will typically chop this tube to where you need to be to accomplish the geometry recommended in the book of 7.5 and 5. Something I've found that helps me is to take a piece of cardboard out of the box and cut yourself a small square. I've put a dot here for the center point of my hinge, and I put a dot here for the center point of my bracket. With that, you want to put your first dot center of the hinge, which luckily for us, we have a grease cert right in the center. So this works out really well for being able to find your center point. So you're going to hold this center. You want to keep it 90 degrees, keep it square with the post. And then you're going to figure out, a lot of times what I'll do is take this bracket first and kind of play with it, move it around until you get where your hole lines up with those. So for me, it just happened to work out perfectly with the spacing of my hinges and this 3-inch square post, that this bracket makes the perfect combination right here. So then what I've done is, since I've decided to mount this bracket this direction, I've gone in here and etched a line at 3/4 of an inch across here. The newer brackets on the bigger actuators, you're gonna run to 2-inch. This happens to be 1.5 inches. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line up my center point here with my center point on the gate bar. I will then take a level and make sure this is level horizontally that direction. And I'm gonna tack this onto the gate. And then I've also made a mark on this post here, because with my geometry, I found that that right there gives me exactly my 7.5 and 5. So we'll go on and fire up the welder and get this thing tacked on. Got yourself a magnetic level, it's a lifesaver. And I'm lining up my center marks that I put on here previously. If you have a C-clamp or something, it would probably help. We're going to go ahead and tack it, and then we'll come back and check our level, do a little bit of adjusting if needed. Right there. We're going to get our bracket. We want to make sure the curve is towards the gate. That's how we got our geometry. And then I'm going to line this back up. The markings will help you so much, because you're not sitting here trying to hold your square or tape measure. So if you get some black markers, a lot, permanent marker works a lot better on this shiny metal. Obviously a piece of welding chalk doesn't work as good. But you're just going to get that in there and hold it, and then we're going to tack it down. Now what I'm going to do is get my square again. Try not to make anything permanent until you doubled and triple checked, but there we are again, center of our hinge, center of our hole. We got our geometry right, so now we're just gonna weld everything solid and be done with this side. Okay, so now that we've got our pull to open bracket finalized, we're going to move on to the next step, which will be figuring out where our gate bracket goes. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is we are doing a pull to open. If you were doing a push to open, you have a whole section here on 6B that explains the different geometry to get you the push to open. Okay, so the next step here is we're going to install our actuator to the mounting bracket. So we want to get our actuator arm. You want to be careful not to crush any of these plugs. They're not super easy to replace. Just going to set them to the side. As the picture shows, we have a bronze bushing and a nylon washer. These are a little snug. You kind of want to get them against the bracket there, push them into play. We're going to do the same thing on the bottom. You can see if I try to do them together, well, that one went pretty decent. So we got that here. Now, if we look at the directions, we need to have a washer and the bolt go through the bracket, and then under the bracket, we're going to have a washer and the lock nut. So now we're going to carry this over and get it set up. I'm going to go ahead and take my cotter pin, my gate pin, and bracket with me, because that'll be the next pieces we need. Let's go ahead and carry them on over. Now at this point, I'm going to set these brackets aside, and I'm kind of holding pressure against this washer here. And obviously we've let our bracket cool down. You don't want to be out here burning yourselves or melting anything. So to get this lined up, we'll get in here and kind of start our bolt. And once we've got that there, we're going to take our washer and our nut. And I'm just going to leave these loose for now, because when you weld on these, you do not want this arm, control board, or anything else attached. So now what we want to do, and you don't really necessarily need your cotter pin right now either, we're going to take this gate bracket and we're going to come over here and put our pin in. And now what we want to do is we want to find 90 degrees of our gate. So I'm going to bring my gate out. And one thing that kind of works to my benefit, but probably won't work for a lot in the field, is I have a 3-inch square post with this 1x2 square, so I can actually find my 90 using a square. Whereas out in the field, you're going to probably a lot of times have to eyeball on round posts, things like that. Essentially, this again, if you are working on black pipe, you could probably get away with a piece of chalk. I'm going to use a Sharpie. We're going to come out here, our gate's at 90 degrees. We're going to get our bracket out here and figure out where we want it and just make a mark on each side of it. And that's going to be where this bracket welds. Now, the other thing you need to make sure of is you want to make sure that your arm is level when you are welded in place. So we want to get our bracket to where we're in the center of that level, which actually is, for once, perfectly center of my post here. And now we're going to move on to the next step of welding this on. Okay, so now we need to weld on our gate bracket side. So I'm just going to unpin it. I'm going to throw it over there where I need it. Keep your hardware in a good spot. You don't want to weld with the arm on, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the arm. This is why I leave the bolt and everything loose to begin with. And I'm just going to kind of try to keep this all together. It'll probably fall off in the box, but set it down there. And now we're ready to come over here, and we can see my 2 marks right here of where that bracket needs to go. So let's go ahead and weld that on. So now I'm going to get all prepped up here. And this is where I'm going to use my level again. I got a magnetic level. It makes life so much easier doing these. I'm actually going to put it on the bottom so I can kind of see a little better since I'm working low to the ground. These do have holes in them where you can bolt them. Once you're welding onto a gate, I just weld everything I can. So we're going to get our bubble centered here. We'll go ahead and tack it on and then check our level. So we moved a little bit here. We'll get my chipping hammer here and we'll move it a little. A lot of times you're better off with giving it some little love taps with a chipping hammer, is what I found, because it's such small increments of movement. You you get on here with a crescent wrench or something, you have a good chance of knocking it too far. Okay, so now I'm level there. Get my other side going here. Now, normally I would have tacked this, but this is on our demo gate, and I already know we're in the right spots. Normally I would tack this until I've actually seen the actuator move before making anything permanent, because if you're off under geometry at all, I would have to cut all of the welds off that or get new bracketry to make it right. So you'd be cautious before you make it permanent. Okay. There's our brackets. We're going to let that cool, and then we'll move on to our next step. Okay, so now we've got our actuator brackets on the gate and the post. They're over there cooling. We're going to move on to our next step, which is going to be to install the control box and the actuator cable. As I said earlier, we have 2 Phillips head screws. You tilt the cover back. These screws are made so they don't come out. What I do to make life easier, there's a silver bar running through here. If you have some narrow pliers or really skinny fingers, you can grab that bar and just pull it straight out. And that gives us the ability to set our cover in a safe spot until later. We have 4 mounting holes here in each corner. They are slidable, so you can preset your screws and then hang your box on it and tighten them up. We'll get set up on that and get this thing in. Okay, so what I've done here is I've already got my 2 top self-tappers started. You can see our holes are slotted to fit over them and slide down. I don't want to get metal shavings all over the control board or in my box. I like to keep the boxes as clean as possible. So what you'll do is hold it up here, make sure you got it level, start your 2 top screws, and then when you go to start your bottom ones, your box is on, you're tight, you're nice and level. Now you can come down here to your bottom. And what I would do on the bottom is same thing. Come in here and make your dots. I would lift and remove the box, and then I would drill my holes. As you can see, I've started my self-tappers down here as well. So all I've got to do now is put the box in, get my, what you're going to want is a pretty long extension here. You can get these little kits on Amazon for about 15 bucks. They're magnetic. The magnets actually stay in them so far, and they come with 2 different extensions, socket heads, and things like that. Pretty handy little kit to have in your bag. So now I'm just going to put my 2 bottom screws in. The box is plastic on this one. You don't want to over torque it. It is strong, but as with anything, you don't want to get carried away. Now we'll come up and snug my top ones. And there we have it. Our control box is mounted, and we're on to the next step. Okay, so now we've got our box mounted. The next step they want you to do is to install the linear actuator cable, which means our actuator needs to go back on. I'm going to go ahead and grab it, as well as my hardware. We've got that. So we're going to carry it over here again. Pay attention to your cable. And you'll have to forgive us, guys, at 103 degrees outside in Texas, so we're taking advantage of our demo being small and being able to work in our office here. So I've got my plastic bushing, my little bushing there. We're going to insert those again. We have a bolt with a washer from the top. Get those in there. And then we had a washer and the lock nut on the bottom. Again, I'm not going to tighten these just yet. I like to wait till I'm in the space. I have my pin and cotter pin. So now we're going to swing our gate to the open position. I installed a smack plate on this gate. I highly recommend that on your gates. It just helps save these actuators so much from wind and pressure. You can get a tight close. You don't have your, wind's not going to sit here and shake it. So we're going to pull that back. We'll get our pin into play here. And then we'll install our cotter pin. And now we have our actuator in that position. If you'll come around here, we're going to run our actuator up in the bottom of the box here. You'll see the large hole in the middle. You just kind of want to slide that plastic clip back a little bit. We're going to bring that up and through. And what I like to do before clipping your bushing into space, I just like to pull your slack up. Again, cable etiquette's really important to me. You're going to leave a little bit of a loop here. I would probably zip tie to here and maybe to the post. Once you get the cable where you want it, we can go ahead and pop this little clip into place here, like so. Okay, we've got our actuator wire ran through our box. The grommet is clipped into place, but we do not want to plug in the actuator yet until we're ready. We're going to move on into our book. Step 11 would be if you had a dual gate system, about running the wires over and splicing them under the driveway. So we're moving on to 12, which is our entrapment device. This kit comes with a set of the infrared photo eyes. The gate side primary is going to be wired in. The opposite side will take batteries. We'll set our instructions aside. I found with these boxes, I'm going to get to the brackets first so I can mount them. So I just kind of grab everything carefully and set it aside. Here's our mounting brackets. And then in the kit, we have our little covers. We have the back of the housing, all of our grommets, all the way down to our eyes, mounting hardware, and our batteries. But let's get these brackets put on. So I have taken advantage here of pre-drilling my holes. But basically what you're going to want to do is these brackets are going to sit like this. You have some slotted holes to where if you need to be able to tilt them to find each other, you can. So there is a little bit of adjustment, but we want to get pretty close. So what I've done for these for my demo is just measure these 12 inches from the floor. You're just going to have to do off of your area what your UL 325 compliance is. I would normally put a screw in here and another down in the slotted area, but again, mine's for a demo, so I'm just going to use it for the demo purposes. It doesn't have to be moved around or have too much extra in there. So we're going to go ahead and put this in. Start with my bottom. I'll get my top in there. And you do want to make sure your bracket is level this direction, in and out, so that the eyes will be facing each other. And then the same thing on the other side. We want to go with our same measurement up. Again, I've pre-drilled my holes. In this one, your slotted adjustment is going to be at the top instead. The same principle behind it. That in there. Top screw started here. And again, we'll put levels on them, make sure we got them level, and then now we'll go put our eyes together. Okay, for the next step, we're going to assemble our photo eyes. This is everything in the photo eye box, minus the cable. You will need 4-strand 20 gauge wire or something equivalent. You're going to need a small flathead screwdriver and a Phillips head screwdriver. What we have here is we have the two covers. We have the two back plates, and on these, one side again is battery operated, one side is electric, where we're going to need the power from the box. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and poke a hole in this. Our display is going to be indoors. If you were outdoors, you would obviously want a grommet or something here. You might take the whole knockout. I'm just going to do a tiny hole for my wire to fit through snugly. Make sure there's no burrs, all of that. So how this will assemble is once we get over to the bracket, you have your back plate, you have a rubber weatherproof seal, you're going to have the control board for the photo eye, and then finally you have a front cover. To bolt this on, you're first going to take out of your hardware kit, this is everything that was there, you're going to have these bolts and nuts, they're going to go into the actual brackets that we mounted a minute ago with the nut on the back side of it. There's 4 holes. There's actually 8 in the bracket because you can mount the photo eyes. If you had to flip them brackets on a horizontal bar, you'd be able to flip that bracket and still have 4 holes to get in. So we'll go over there, we're going to mount this, and then you're going to take all the other parts minus the front cover, and these long silver screws are going to go into your 4 corners. And then lastly, the front cover goes on with 2 of the black screws in the front, and then that'll be mounted. On this particular one being wired, we'll show you over there as well, you're going to need to connect your wire, put it through the holes, and we'll drop it out the back before attaching this. On the battery operated side, you have the exact same setup, but instead of having wires, you have batteries. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next step and show you how to put these together. So for the next part of this, we're going to be on step 12A, where we're going to wire in the wired side of the photo eyes. Now, for our application, we're using closed direction protection. They also have open direction below it if you need it. But for our particular application, and as you can see, my wire does not have a green, I have a yellow. Just follow your colors. So we're going to bring our photo eye in here, and we're going to start off with first, all the way on the left, we have our black wire. You get that in there. You want to make sure it's not frayed out or anything. The last thing you want is wires touching, giving you false things to troubleshoot. Get that nice and snug. Now we can see the second wire in. Our red goes into the second hole. This is kind of hard to film because I'm trying to keep these wires as short as possible. Cable management's a big one to make these things look right. All right, and then their green, our yellow, will go into the 4th hole for our common. Got that in there. Snug that guy down. And lastly, our white will go into our NC for normally closed. There we go. So we've got those all snug down to where they need to be. And then we're going to take this cable now. I'm going to take the other end of it and route it down through that tiny hole I punched earlier. Again, you'll want to have a grommet on yours. Ours is an indoor display for show purposes. And you can also do this after you mount the back. I just kind of let it hang. And now we'll go over to our gate and get these things installed. Okay, we're going to start with our actuator side, which will be our wired side. Make sure we get our hole with our box in it. And we're just going to put our screws in. We're going to use the 4 most narrow holes. The other ones would obviously be if our bracket was flipped the other direction. So we're just going to get a bolt started in there, and then we'll get a nut on the back side. And repeat. This is obviously a lot easier when you're not trying to get an angle to where a camera can see it still. And in there. And lastly, that one up here. Okay, so once we have our 4 bolts in there, now we're going to come back. You can see there's not any play. These holes are pretty precise. So we're going to come back and just snug them down. You don't want to break the plastic housing or anything, but you want to make sure they're tight and not moving so they don't mess with you later. Okay, and once we have that in, we're ready for our next step. Now, obviously, we put this on, we need our wire to go back through there. So there's a hole here in the bottom of that. You're going to bring your wires through. That's one of those steps that If you skip it, it'll bite you here in a minute. So you want to go ahead and get those put in. Just kind of leave yourself a little slack off to the side. Now also with that, you need to get it through the bottom of your weatherproof seal. Your weatherproof seal has these little raised indentions. Those are actually going to face the photo eye. So we want to come indentions up through this direction. That's the proper way for that to be sealed. We're going to get it up there, and then we want to kind of go around and pop this thing into place. Once we have that, our last run of the wire is going to be down through our grommet. Again, I don't have a grommet on here because of the purposes of this demo will be all indoors, but you can get the idea. Your wire is going to go down. You can leave a little slack inside that box. And then what you want to do is gently hold it. You don't want to accidentally break anything. This is where our 4 long silver screws will come in. We're going to have one of them in each corner. I'm going to grab my smaller screwdriver here. You just want to get those in there. And you want to make sure you're properly seated. You want to make sure you're level all the way around. Your rubber gasket's not pushing you out anywhere. And I just kind of get them all in here and get them started. Let's hold that down. Kind of like to snug them up caddy corner first. We're gonna get that guy in there. And one more. Get that guy there. Okay, once that's all in, it's nice and weatherproof. We're gonna grab our final 2 black screws out of the kit. And this is where our photo eye cover will come into play. You just want to pop it on right there in the front. Get these little screws going here to hold it on. And it's got a little blue protector there. You can go ahead and peel that off if you'd like to, or leave it on till the end. Everybody does it different. I'm gonna get that guy in there, snug it down. It's kind of compressing against it, so you got a nice tight seal to keep weather out of it. There we go. And then I'm just going to leave my cable back over here for now. We do have the little sun covers. They're just going to slide over from the top. They clip into place nice and tight, and then that'll keep the sun from interfering with your eye. We'll show you how to wire it in the box in a minute. We'll go ahead and jump to the other side and do the battery one next. Okay, so now we're on the other side. This is our battery operated side. Just a habit, I like to put the grommet hole down. Obviously it's solid. You're not going to get no water intrusion or nothing. It's just cosmetics and something to do. We're going to do the same exact scenario here. Just going to bolt these guys up. Oops. Tiny little bolts. Put these in. There. These all snugged in. I do want to point out the AA batteries that come with these are not your typical store-bought AA's. They are 3.6 volt. So a little bit different. A normal AA battery will not work. So just make sure if you later down the road it's time to change batteries, you're going to want to make sure you have the right ones or it will not be working for you. So again, this one's going to have the rubber washer. You want the outraised side of the grommet going towards the control board and all that stuff. You can get this in here. Make sure you're seated all the way around. And then we're going to come back and throw all these screws into this one here. Like
that. He's seated here. Just gonna set that down for a minute. It'll pop out of place. So sometimes you're better just to set it aside until you're ready for it. So get that there. And these brackets seem a little finicky, but they're not. You're going to have some wiggle in it and things like that. But one thing I'll point out is it is nice to have the socket-headed self-tappers if you're self-tapping these in, just because if you did have to make an adjustment, you can still get in there with a wrench. If you use something with a Phillips head or a Torx, you obviously wouldn't be able to get in there without taking the photo eye back off. So now we're going to pop our little control board into place. There's several little tabs all up in here. Get that popped in. And then obviously your batteries have the little direction guide in them. You pop both of those guys in. And same as the other side, you peel off your little blue sticker and pop in these two little black screws. And these batteries in here should get you several years of use. As with anything, it goes off of usage and things like that. But one of the reasons for the upgraded batteries is longer life and meeting all the specs for US automatics. Got that, and now our cover just pops on, and we're done with this side. Okay, so now we're going to connect our connectors in the box itself. So what we want to do is come over here, and we're going to pull this connector out. And you might have to wiggle it a little. It comes straight out, and then you have it in your hands. And the way they've numbered it, it's numbered across the board 1 through 12, which is just as simple as counting your spaces, 1 through 12. So we're going to come over here. I've already ran my photo eye wire up through the grommet, and I've got my wire ends here. So what we're going to do, you can see their green and black go to number 7 together, which is our yellow and black. So what I'm going to count out is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7's my slot. I'll put that in there. You're going to want to make sure they're twisted well together. You don't want them falling out or only getting one of them in there. Now our white is going to number 8. So right here in the next slot in 8, we're going to get our white in there. And we're going to tighten that guy down. Okay, and then finally, number 12 is where we're going to get our power from. So our red wire will go into number 12 here. And we'll get that snug down. And then we'll go ahead and just bring this back over here. And again, we'll pretty up our cables here at the end of it, but just for video purposes, we'll go ahead and pop that back in. Okay, so now our next step is going to be installing our battery. As you can see, I actually unplugged our battery from the solar controller just to make it a little more easy for me to do on my bench here. So in doing that, what we're going to do, the step you didn't see, was unplugging this. There is a little square just like that. And then we're going to bring our battery up here, set our battery in our box. And it'll probably be a little easier for your install. Our battery's at a slant for demo purposes. Your box will be flat. And we're going to go ahead and plug in the actuator. You have 2 harnesses here in case you had a second actuator. So we'll get all that in there. As you can see, our battery controller started showing all of our readings here. It'll sit there and scroll through your battery voltage and then your charge voltage, which we don't have yet. We do have our little plug here. That's where we're going to plug in our DC adapter, because we're going to run this one in the office. We're doing it on AC power. So we need this DC adapter. This would also be the same if you had a solar system. The solar panels from USAutomatics come with the plug on it, so you're not having to sit there and connect wires. You do have the ability, if you don't have their panel or their harness, there are hardwire connections at the bottom of this controller that you could do as well. But what we're going to do is just bring this over, get it all untangled. And all I'm going to do is plug this in here to an outlet. And since ours is just a demo and we're temporarily working in the office right now, I'm not going to run this up through the bottom. I'm just going to plug it in here. And you can see there's my 1.5 amps. I'm starting to charge my batteries. Now my battery voltage is jumping up, showing what it should be. And now we're ready to move on to the next step. Okay, now that we've got power connected to everything, our next step is going to be plugging in our linear cable here. So you're just gonna, there's only one way it can go. There's a little flat bar across there. You want to be gentle. You don't want to just break the board. This is where you kind of go back a step. So it's going to say verify your photo alignment now. Well, if you go back to 12A down here at the bottom, we've got to turn dip switches 3, 4 to off, and then turn switch on, which is to the right side. I've done that here. I've switched 3 and 4 off. I've got 10 on. So now we're going to spin around and check out our photo eyes here and make sure they're lined up. What you're looking for, I've pulled the 2 little screws out of the front cover and pulled it back off, and I slid my hood off just so we could see a little better. But basically what you've got here is you've got a green light, and as I block signal, so we are lined up. So we're good to go on that. I'm going to go ahead and smack this cover back on, slide the little sunshade back over it, and we'll start programming this thing. Okay, now that we backed up and got our photo eye aligned, we can move on to step 19, which is operating the gate for the first time. We're going to make sure that on our, this is switch 1 here, it's your main switches, and then switch 2 is over here, SW2, SW1. This is going to be all for your slow start and stop. So what it says here, make sure switch 1, default 3 and 4 on. So you can count down to 3 and 4. It's gate 1 and gate 2. You got to turn them both on even if you just have a single gate opener. So we got both of those on. Factory default dip switch setting 3 are on. So we're going to have them all on. 3, okay, number 3 is on. That's what we want. We are a single pull to open right now. So it says switch 1 setting, switch 3 and 4 should be on, which we just did. Photo eye closed direction, that's us. So we want 8 and 10 on, which we've got on. We do not have an open direction photo eye or a contact edge, so we don't need any of that. So what we're going to do next is you want to locate the open and close command button. It's down here at the bottom. Up at top, that's a reset button. We want the bottom one here. We're going to locate them on the board, and we're going to, if you push it once, it'll open the gate. If you push it again, it's going to stop the gate. What we want to do is we're going to hit the button and let the gate go to a factory set position and stop. After it stops, we're going to hit it again to open it, and then we can proceed to do our nudge feature, which will allow us to use the board to do all of our adjustments. So what we want to do here is we're going to hit the button once, and our gate should go to the closed position factory set. So here we go. It will not go all the way because it doesn't want to damage anything. So now at this point, we're going to hit it again. The gate's going to open. And it should be pretty close to where we welded our bracket on and had everything set. I didn't hit it hard enough the first time. Oh, I'm sorry, you have to press it twice. Okay, so we're actually happy. What you want to make sure is when the gate's open, if your geometry's right, you have space here, you're not in any kind of bind like that. There's a little kick to the actuator. So now we're going to move over to our nudge procedure here. And that's where we're going to use, you can see here we have our gate 1, we have our retract limit and our extend limit. Gate 2, retract and extend. So we're only going to be, like I said, we're only a single gate. So we're going to verify gate 1 on the gate 1 port. which is here. We are plugged into gate 1. We're going to verify that both dip switches are still turned on, 3 and 4 for gate 1 and gate 2. We're going to press the open button on the control board and allow the actuator to fully extend. Locate the extend adjustment, which will be right here. That's our extend. And we're going to turn it clockwise slowly, a click at a time. The actuator is going to extend until the gate gets to the desired point. We're going to avoid overextending it, which I have the smack plate on there, so we shouldn't be going too far. Once that, our limit adjustment's complete. If it's a dual gate, we would go on to do the whole procedure again for gate 2, but we don't have a dual gate. So after all said and done, we're going to turn off the gate 2 dip switch because it's not being used. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to hit our open close. The gate's going to go to its position. I'm going to go ahead and get ready with my little screwdriver. And we just want to give it a little jump at a time. You can see the gate's just moving a little at a time as I do it. Every time you turn a little click, it's moving. You don't want to get carried away and just turn it a ton at the same time. So there we are. You can see I'm nice and firm against my bracket. I'm happy with that. So our limit adjustment is complete. I'm going to come back in here and turn off my gate 2 because we don't have one. So limit adjustment's complete. Now at this time, we need to power cycle it. So to do that, the easiest way is to come down here to your actuator harness and just push in that little clip and unplug it. And you just want to give it a few seconds, and then we'll plug it back in. We'll give it a second for everything to go. So our switch 2 for our dip switches on switch 2 over here is for a soft start, soft stop command. And what that does is instead of your gate just going full throttle right off the bat, it'll ease out, get to 100% speed, and slow back down. You can see here, if all 3 dip switches are off, the value would be 0. I do want to say switch 4 is not a speed value switch, so we don't need to do anything with it. If all 3 switches are off, the value would be max speed. If switches 1 and 3 were on, the speed would be 5, 2 and 3, the value would be 6. 1, 2, and 3 were turned on, the value would be 7, which is the slowest. We're going to go with the slowest because, again, we're in a showroom display here. We don't need this thing flipping over on anybody. So after we've changed that, we've again got to do a power cycle. So pretty much anytime you're doing any changes on your board, you're going to want a power cycle. So we're going to unplug this and we'll be right back to plug it in and get going. Okay, we've power cycled. We're going to go ahead and plug back in here. We just adjusted our speed. We got our limits set. Everything should be nice and cozy now. The next options you have to set is up here on gate 1 and 2. You have your sensitivity or your force. We're going to leave ours down because, again, it's a demo. There's no weight to it. You're definitely going to want to crank this up. Don't go more than you have to. You're just going to want to get your gate moving. You'll probably bring gate 2, even though we don't have a gate 2. Sometimes it'll mess with you. I'll usually bring it up halfway just to have it. Down here you have your auto close timer. You can see you start out minimum to maximum, so it's going to be a feature where you've got to pretty much use a stopwatch to kind of guess your times. But for now, we're just going to run the gate. So I'm going to hit the open button, and our gate should go to our open limit. And again, we've got our gate on the slowest speed because, as you can see, we've got a bag of concrete on here counterweighting it until we anchor it. We don't want to get carried away. So there's our gate in our open position. Now we're going to hit our close position and let our gate go back and close. Now a reminder, we do need to come back and tighten up our bolt on our actuator, but this right now is just for demo purposes and getting this set up. There's that. We got a nice hard hit, and we're all set as far as the gate operator. Now we we'll come back and program some remotes and keypads and run you through all those kinds of things. So what we've got here is we want to show you all how to program some remotes, but we had already programmed some to this prior to this video. So what we're going to do is we're going to erase all remotes from the receiver. So in order to do that, you get two long objects. You're going to press P2 until the green light comes on. When it comes on, you let go, and then you're going to hold down both of them. You'll get 4 blinks, and now all your remotes have been erased. Okay, we're going to go ahead and program some transmitters or remotes here. In your box, you're going to have the remote itself, some little instructions, and then a visor clip if you want to put it on your sun visor. There's a little door down here at the bottom you're going to want to slide sideways, and that's for future reference how you access your battery if you need to change it. You've got a series of dip switches in here. If you factory, they're going to come all the way down. I've already adjusted these. If you leave them all the way down, like a lot of people do, and you happen to have a neighbor with a USAutomatic gate opener, they can open and close your gate, and it will become very annoying. So what I've done on this one, just since it's in our office, there's 3 positions. I just left every other one all the way down and put the opposite up. So I got down, up, down, up, all the way across. You want to make sure when this closes, there's a little ear here. You're going to swing around and close it back. You can put a key ring through here, put your visor on there. Now what we're going to want to do is have a small object. I've got a drill bit here, and we're going to come over here and program this thing. And to do that, it's fairly simple. Our receiver here has P1, which is like an open close command, open close stop. P2 is pre-programmed to be a hold open. So if you're having a party, get together, you want to hold the gate open and not let the timer close it or the exit sensor work, that's the way to do it. So to program our left button to P1, I'm going to hold it, let it light up, and then I'm going to press and hold this until you see the green light. And now our remote's programmed to single button. So when I hit it again, it stops. And when I hit it again, we go to close. Now, if we want to put in a lock code to P2 to lock the gate open, we're going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it button 2, hold it down, and then press P2. And now our green light comes on again. And as you can see, and now one thing we want to do before we finish up is test our photo eyes and make sure that they are working. I stopped the gate halfway just so it doesn't take so long in the video, but I'm going to now hit it to close. And then we are going to block our photo eyes as if we were a vehicle or something. And the gate is set up to whenever it thinks it's going to hit something to stop and reopen. So our photo eyes are working. You also want to test and make sure that you did it right and they're not working on the open cycle. So we're good to go on our safeties. We'll program up some accessories here next for you. Installing the Nexxgate smart controller on a USAutomatic Ranger 500. Go ahead and get out of the box. We have our Nexxgate device. And down in here you'll have the instructions where you'll have a QR code you can scan for the app. Now in this little box we have our antenna and our cable to connect it. All we're going to have to do is connect one end to the device, which will be our blue end. Put that in there. We have our little antenna. Go ahead and thread that guy down in there. May not even need the antenna, but most applications you will. So it comes with a seal. For our application today, we're not going to do it, but you could drill through the box, and then your antenna will go on the outside of the box. This is just on a little office demo. You can see you got a bend, so when you mount it to the box, you can point the antenna as you wish. In these plastic boxes, they don't come with a lot of mounting room, so this would actually mount down here. Again, ours is just a little demo in the office. You might use some two-sided tape or something like that for your application. We're just going to plug this into the board. thread these down. And now we're ready to get onto our app. When you first pull up the app, you'll have to create an account. And then we're going to hit the plus to add a device. We're going to look for our Nexxgate. And then we're going to look at our lights. Everything's good. We got both lights. So go ahead and click here. Pairing device. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and connect to our Wi-Fi. And we've got to enter our Wi-Fi password. Configure device. You can see our blue lights blinking occasionally on the box like it says here it will be. When the Wi-Fi connects, it'll be a solid blue. Okay, now we have our solid blue on the box. As you can see, this is taking a minute. Okay, Wi-Fi is successfully connected. Lights blue is the light blue. We're going to say yes. I'm going to go ahead and allow it while I'm using the app. And we're going to register to cloud. Device successfully registered. I'm going to go ahead and allow it to send notifications. There's a new firmware update. We're going to go ahead and install that. Okay, so we had to update our firmware before the gate would move. To do that, this is your home screen when you come in. You can hit here and obviously make everything bigger. You can stay on the small screen, but regardless, you hit this little setting gear, and we're going to go down to device info, and there's your update now button. So we have everything working. When you first open the app, you can either hit the little green icon here, or you can open it up. And I have it setting for press and hold. So when you click it, nothing happens. You actually have to hold for a few seconds. It'll beep to warn anybody standing around the gate that the gate's about to start moving. And then our gate's going to open. If you have a time to close, once it stops moving, it would count down and close. There's a plethora of settings in here you can play with. Our gate is not on a time to close, but you can see now that it says our gate's open, the screen's turned red. Down in here, you have options to have it alert you every time the gate opens. Notifications, it'll notify me on open, on close. You can set up reminders to remind me if it's open too long, things like that. This just drive will be like geofencing. You can set up to where the gate will find your device and open based off your proximity and stuff. Share control if you want to add users. I believe this is up to 10 users. You've got a lot of different things in here. This has no paid subscription. It does work with Alexa and things like that. But yeah, a lot of good stuff in here and pretty neat little device. Just hold it again. Again, it's beeping because if you're somewhere else in the world, someone standing here wouldn't know the gate's about to start moving. And that's it. It'll cycle, and then once it closes, another cool thing about this Next app is it will actually show you a log of who all has been here. and open and close the gate. See, once our gate closes, it shows green that everything's safe again. You can come to history and it'll say, if you name your users, it'll show you who opened and closed it. So if you have tenants at your property or something like that, you can see who's coming and going. You can schedule it to be open and closed at certain times, different things like that. So very neat little device for not a lot of money. Okay, we have here a USAutomatic 030215. It's the push button, push to exit, whatever you want to call it. You have a hardware kit that comes with it. You'll have the button assembly. We don't have a lot of room to sit up here. Your instruction manual, and lastly, your battery. This is going on our demo gate, so we won't use a lot of the mounting hardware. We're probably going to go with the two-sided Velcro or something, but your button comes already loose. You have your cover, you have the button itself, and then you have the mounting housing. All you're going to do is put your battery in. This is, again, the 3.6 volt. It's not your typical AA battery. When you're mounted, that just clips into place with a clip on each corner, and then this will go over and pop on the outside. To program this, you're going to take your small paper clip or device, in my case a drill bit. You're going to press and hold your P1 on the receiver until your green light comes on, and then you're going to just hold your hand over this. You should hear a buzz. Okay, so we had our tone. So now, when this is mounted, when your gate openers, you can mount this on a post. These are wireless, so they can be on your buggies or anything. And now what you'll do is whenever you're ready, wherever you have it mounted, mine's just sitting on this post cap just for this video. There's no actual click to the button. It's just a touch. So once you touch it, your gate will move. This is programmed like your remotes for P1. So if you touch it again, it's going to stop. Touch it again, it's going to close the gate. So you have all the same options as your regular remote, but pretty handy and inexpensive device to add to your gate.